I'm living in Denmark with my wife, Rita. We have 4 daughters and 5 grandchildren. One is on the way. And my whole education took place in Denmark. I went to the Technical University to do my master, and there I did my Ph.D. Also. And we are very fortunate. In Denmark, education is free. That's one of the things you see from your taxes. I came into the industry by chance, and that was a deciding moment in my career. I had done the bachelor, like 3 years study, and then we had a course in surveying. And if you had that course, you could go to Greenland, which is a part of the Danish kingdom, and do surveying in the summertime as a student job. And it was really good paid. So a colleague of mine, we applied for getting this job, but we didn't get it. But then my professor, Fanger, who is one of the Hall of Famer of ASHRAE, he asked me if I wanted to do a student job for him and run some testing on thermal comfort with human subjects. Since then, I have not done anything else than working with indoor environment. What intrigued me was here I could work with people, because basically what we were looking at, what is the best indoor environment for people. So you work with people, you work with something you were able to explain to everybody, because everybody is exposed to the indoor environment and have an opinion on it. So I think that was very intriguing. So it was not hardcore system mechanical thing, it was also very human thing. You could say my first job was a Ph.D. because a Ph.D. in Denmark is paid like a young engineer, so it's really a job you are paid for. But after my Ph.D., I continued at the university as a research engineer. But a couple of years after I finished my Ph.D., I started part-time in a company manufacturing instruments for measurement of the indoor environment. I was helping building up a new brand for that. And that led me to, in the 90s, to go to the head office in the US. So I went to the US with my wife and one of the children in 90. We worked out in the Boston area, but then I wanted to do something different, so I went back to academia and went to Virginia Tech, where I was teaching architects about indoor environment, heating and cooling. But as I didn't come up with a tenure track for me, I said, now I'll go back to Europe. And then I went to Germany. I had my PhD that time was on radiant heating and cooling. So I went to a company there manufacturing mainly floor heating and cooling system, and was head of R&D. And then finally, my old professor, he called me back to take over his position at university. So 2004, I went back to the university, and since then have been a full professor there. My ASHRAE career started when my professor, he said, you should publish some of your results for your PhD in ASHRAE. So in Denmark, we don't have, at that time, have ASHRAE chapters and so. So in this regard, ASHRAE was not known. We had our own HVAC society built up, you could say, doing the same thing as ASHRAE, organizing education, seminars, writing handbooks, and I was active there. But for publishing research and presenting it, I was told, or my professor suggested, go to an ASHRAE meeting. So I went to my first ASHRAE meeting in Halifax, Nova Scotia in 1978. So it will be, and that's why I started my membership. So next year I will be here 50 years. And I have only missed one meeting since then. Well, the presidential year has been probably one of the most exciting years in my life. And many people from the outside think, oh, you're only president 1 year. Yes, but it takes you about 9 years where you're involved in the leadership before you become president. So 1 year is enough. At that time, we had the two presidents before me were focusing on our strategic plan. So we each of us took part of the strategic plan as our headline for this presidential year. Mine was extend, so extend the community. I wanted to make ASHRAE more global. So I was very much focusing on that ASHRAE should look at the global community and not mainly focus on the North American community. So during that year, it gave me then a chance to visit a lot of chapters in the US and of course all over the world. I can tell you, I think I traveled 250 days that year. But traveling was not uncommon to me. Before that, I had several years where I was traveling like 130 days, so that was not, but I came to a lot of new countries, and fortunately my university told me it was okay, because I asked our president, I'm now going to use almost a year on ASHRAE, and he said, no, that's a very good credit for the university that you can work as president. And being only the number 2 from outside, at that time from outside the US, that was also reasons I said I had to work on the global thing. What ASHRAE gave me, not only through the presidential year, but during the years, is that you build up a network and you learn leadership. I had done some leadership by being chair of different standards committee and so, but that's something you learn by doing, going all the way up to be president. And of course, the result of all these activities is also that I have been in all 51 states and visited more than 100 countries. I managed to make ASHRAE more global. There had been some attempt earlier to make more global, and I think one time we had a publication or so, how ASHRAE should become global. But that was more, being global was everybody else should do the same as ASHRAE. And that's not my meaning of global. Global is to work with other societies around the world, and we have the same goal, good indoor environment, lower energy consumption, and the impact of the world. So I think I succeeded in making a change that way. And that was, I think, that was my goal, and I think partly I succeeded. So what we got a new region in Europe that has been part of a bigger region before that. And then I got a new office in Europe and got one in Dubai also. So as I said, if you are in Denmark, at that time we didn't have student chapter, we didn't have other ASHRAE local organizations. So what I told the student was, like I was told also, is that's a good place where you can meet other people who are interested in the same as you. You can build up your network. Try to become member. If you have a local ASHRAE organization, do that. But you can also be a member and come to the annual meetings. But I think to go to the annual meeting is a big thing. You need a sponsor. It's expensive, and traveling and so on. But eventually, most people, what you see is get hooked by ASHRAE. One thing about students also is they often look for student jobs. In a small company, you may be able to work with many sides of what a company is doing, and you will learn more. So that would definitely be my advice to some of the younger students. there is a life outside society, and there's also a kind of technical life outside the society. I know ASHRAE is making standards, but there's 2 worldwide big standard organizations where I have been very active. So it's still, you can say, part of my work. The other things I've been doing, I have always been very interested in sports. I have played competitive football, real football, European football, and badminton. It's a sport which is not well known in the US, but worldwide, a small country like Denmark has been one of the leading, so that of course trigger also to be interested. I was running marathons and so on, but nowadays I'm more watching the sports and go a ride on my bike. And then I have a big wine collection. I'm interested in wine, so I think I may have wine enough for the rest of my life. It may be some friends come and make it, empty it, but wine is definitely on my interest and good restaurants.